What would happen if Rico fought Anthony Joshua? On paper, who should win? Now, AJ has the power, the jab, the extended championship boxing experience, but boxing is not paper. It is timing, psychology, and puzzles. Rico brings feints, awkward rhythm, and a dangerous backhand. If this fight was to happen, would Anthony Joshua get destroyed? It's a valid question. So how would Rico beat AJ? How would Rico destroy Anthony Joshua? Well, if Rico can duplicate the Usyk performance, then surely he wins, right? But there are, of course, variables. What are the variables? Well, Anthony Joshua is probably the bigger puncher. He's probably the bigger puncher than AJ. AJ also will be more aware of the danger. AJ will have the Usyk fight as the study tape. What does that mean? It means that the context to this fight, if it were to happen, would be different. It would be a different context, not necessarily a different outcome. But here is what goes in Rico's favor. AJ does not have the feet of Usyk. I think that's a safe assumption. He can adapt, but arguably Usyk is better at adapting. He is the adapter. Usyk is the adapter. If you give AJ a different puzzle, that means it will take him longer to solve it. He can solve puzzles, but it will take him longer. And when you add Rico with Peter Fury, you know he's going to bring those puzzles. So if AJ does not manage the feints, he has a massive problem, which leads to the question, how does he manage the feints? And then you have the factor of the small target and the head movement. And how that is effective will be dependent on AJ's reactions. If AJ makes mistakes with the hand placement, particularly left hand, Rico's backhand could end the fight. That punch looks very powerful. If AJ goes to the ropes, and I don't think he would want to go to the ropes, and then Rico goes to the body, I think that's a deadly combination, and that puts AJ in a very vulnerable position. Of course, as with every fight, there are questions. Here's a question. How good is Rico's jab? That's one thing I didn't really see. How good is his jab? And how powerful is Rico's punches? He's a good puncher, but is he a great puncher? Peter Fury, the trainer, I would say is a defensive-minded trainer. But is Rico a defensive-minded boxer? I think his psychology is offensive. Now, the right hand to the body and the left hook to the head, when he did that against Usyk, he really got Usyk's attention. I wonder how AJ would react to that combination. To me, there are ingredients that would suggest an emphatic victory. There are ingredients that would suggest an emphatic Rico victory. And Rico's psychology, think of this. What will Rico's psychology be like? Surely his psychology, his confidence will be absolutely astronomical. So let's break this down in phases. So phase one, the feint is crucial because it sets up the backhand and it causes confusion. Phase two, the feet will play a significant role, particularly with defense, and Rico's feet were great against Usyk. Phase three, if AJ retreats to the ropes, this surely will be a massive mistake. Phase four, the straight right to the body and left hook to the head. This type of punch creativity increases the chance. It increases the chance for either a knockdown, knockout, or hurting AJ, or winning the round. And finally, phase five, Rico's confidence, as I've stated, will be through the roof. But that can help, but it can also hinder. Confidence is beneficial. Overconfidence is detrimental. So I think you can make a compelling case for the Rico victory. I think you can make a very compelling case, a rational case, based on the Usyk performance. But let's play devil's advocate. How does AJ win the fight? And could AJ win this fight in emphatic fashion? Well, the first thing, AJ needs to deal with the feints, and he needs to really utilize his jab. He needs to disrupt Rico's confidence. Remember I was talking about that astronomical confidence? He needs to disrupt that and challenge his positive psychology, because that positive psychology will enable him to be creative and to be more dominant. As I stated, the jab is always an important weapon, and it's essential here. A great AJ jab can control the fight. Check the second Ruiz fight. The pull counter could work, but that's all dependent on the timing. So the pull counter can be dangerous. It could work for you, it can work against you. I think, my opinion, that AJ's feet are important here. Again, in the second Ruiz fight, AJ's feet were great. When AJ comes in heavy, when he puts on significant amounts of weight, in my personal opinion, his feet suffer. So he punches hard, he has greater physicality, but his feet suffer. However, he needs to manage Rico's strength, because the one thing I noticed about Rico is that he really brought physicality. So to me, from my perspective, an outsider looking in, I think the AJ that fought Usyk in the rematch, I think that AJ beats Rico. And what did we have in that fight? Well, if you look at that fight and you were to summarize it, what did we have? We had quick feet, combinations, and very strong and effective body work, as well as feints, good jab, etc. But the quick feet were significant, and the combination punching and the body work, they stood out. Now, we don't know how well Rico takes a punch in the boxing context. We know how well he takes a punch and a kick in the kickboxing context, but not in the boxing context. And there is a boxing context because he's older, and he did get hurt by Usyk, I think, on a variety of occasions, not just in round 11. And the punch resistance, I think the punch resistance is there early in the fight, but is it there in the middle and late rounds? And that would be dangerous against a dangerous puncher like Anthony Joshua, because Anthony Joshua can punch. So let's break this down in phases. Think of this. Phase 1, if AJ takes away the complicated feints and is able to effectively feint against Rico, then he is on his way to victory. Phase 2, winning the jab battle is crucial. The jab, it wins rounds, it sets up the backhand, it sets up the left hook, and it controls the fight in the distance. Phase 3, the version that fought Usyk in the rematch, I think that's the version that wins this fight and potentially wins the fight by knockout. Phase 4, the weight of AJ. That will reveal a lot. Particularly, it will reveal a lot about his feet. If he comes in too heavy, that I believe will compromise his feet. He'll have the physicality, but he won't have the feet, and that will affect his defense and offense. And phase 5, late in the fight, AJ may need to accelerate like he did in the Klitschko fight. He may need to accelerate to up the pace. If he has the ability to do that, then he definitely has the ability to win this fight. So this fight of Rico versus AJ, it's not scheduled, but interestingly, it was talked about previously to the Usyk fight. So there were discussions. How far those discussions got, it's hard to tell. But what happens if Rico fights AJ? What happens if we have successful negotiations? And, in boxing, negotiation is essential. Well, if Rico fights AJ, he implants himself firmly in the British boxing algorithm. Why is the British boxing algorithm important? Well, the British boxing algorithm has value. For example, if you look at AJ himself, he has a net worth allegedly of £195 million, not dollars, but pounds. And Matchroom Sport, which is a powerhouse in Britain, is valued over 1 billion. So you have a significant audience reach, you have a long-term brand value, and you have lots of money and a significant cultural impact. You will have cultural impact from a British perspective, but also from a worldwide perspective. So I think the British algorithm, the British boxing algorithm, which is my narrative bias, I think that has value. And this fight could further solidify Rico's position. Of course, if Rico was to leave now, he leaves with his head high. His performance against Usyk was epic. It was phenomenal. But he could further solidify that position with an opportunity of victory. But let's be clear, it's a risk for Rico, and it's definitely a risk for Anthony Joshua. He will carry the weight of expectation. Anthony Joshua will carry the weight of boxing expectation on his shoulders. But it's a moment. And like I said, it would be a moment worldwide, but it would be a massive moment for British boxing. And of course, there would be questions to consider. As all great fights, there will be many questions, great questions. For example, is Anthony Joshua, is he still at world level? He used to be at world level, but is he still at world level? And also, how good is Rico really? If you take away the element of surprise, how effective is Rico? Was he an elite boxer on that night, or is he simply an elite boxer? I guess we would find out. Can Rico win the jab battle? Can he be effective in that domain? Can Rico recreate the Usyk performance? Can he recreate that special performance? I think this would be a great fight and potentially a great moment. So that's the end of the video. Now I'm trying to build a digital boxing community. That means I'm interested in your comments, I'm interested in your questions, and I'm interested in your observations. Now, if you want to support the channel, simply like and subscribe. And if you want to watch more content, then click here or click here. As always, thanks for your time. It is much appreciated.